Welcome to this explainer on the ELAR, or Enjoying Life After Retirement, Cognitive Performance Framework. Now, if you think aging means your brain is just on some fixed, unavoidable downward slide, well, think again. Today, we're looking at how cognitive aging is actually a highly dynamic, completely modifiable process. To give us a clear roadmap, we'll be moving through 5 key areas today. First, an introduction to cognitive aging. Second, the foundations of cognitive resilience. Third, determinants of cognitive attrition. Fourth, proactive optimization interventions. And finally, a synthesis and summary to tie it all together. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Introduction to Cognitive Aging, and why it's really a modifiable adaptation process. Modern research shows us that keeping your brain sharp in your later years isn't just about good genetics or luck. It's actually about continuous adaptation. The way you move your body, how you manage your cardiometabolic health, and how you challenge your mind, all of these actively shape your brain's future rather than just resigning it to some static decline. Moving right along to Section 2, Foundations of Cognitive Resilience. Let's look at the actual hardware and software of the brain. So let's talk about cognitive reserve, or CR. Think of this as your brain's ultimate backup generator. It's this amazing functional capacity to maintain your cognitive performance by brilliantly finding alternative neural pathways, even if there's underlying age-related damage. It's literally your brain finding a workaround. And this reserve heavily relies on neuroplasticity, which is powered by BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You can basically think of BDNF as Miracle-Gro for your brain. It strengthens synaptic connections and actually helps your neurons survive whenever you exercise or learn something totally new. Next up is the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or the AMCC. This little area is basically your brain's internal accountant for effort. It constantly weighs the cost of doing something really hard against the expected reward, which is absolutely crucial for driving your willpower and goal-directed behavior. Now, for long-term maintenance, your brain relies on the glymphatic system. Picture this as a nighttime fleet of street sweepers rolling in to clear out toxic metabolic waste, like soluble amyloid beta. But here's the catch. This vital deep clean only happens during your deep, non-REM N3 sleep. That brings us to Section 3, Determinants of Cognitive Attrition. Let's look at the pathophysiological drivers that actually wear these systems down. We have to contrast healthy aging against the physiological friction that actively works against us. A major culprit here is chronic low-grade inflammation. It's often cleverly called inflammaging, and it can lead to the physical structural degradation of that AMCC we just talked about, which can even trigger feelings of behavioral apathy. Okay, get this. Your muscles actually talk directly to your brain. It's called the muscle-brain axis. This means that sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss, significantly increases your risk for cognitive decline. It all comes down to shared systemic issues, like inflammation and insulin resistance. There is also metabolic friction to consider. As we age, bioavailable testosterone levels gradually dip, partly due to rising sex hormone-binding globulin. Plus, our bodies experience anabolic resistance. This simply means your muscles get stubborn. They become much less efficient at using the protein you eat to rebuild themselves. And hey, remember those nighttime street sweepers? Well, as our sleep architecture naturally decays with age, we lose out on that vital deep N3 sleep. This drastically reduces the brain's ability to clear out that neurotoxic waste, leaving our long-term cognitive health highly vulnerable. So what do we do about it? Let's dive into Section 4, Proactive Optimization Interventions, and lay out a multimodal management strategy. First, we fight back with cognitive challenge, specifically prediction error training, or PET. This means taking on novel, complex tasks like learning the guitar, where you're bound to make mistakes. That exact mismatch between what you expect and what actually happens forces your AMCC to adapt, driving some serious neuroplasticity. Next up, high-intensity physical protocols. Have you heard of the Norwegian 4x4 interval method? It involves pushing your heart rate right up to 85 or even 95% of its max. Doing this reliably improves your cardiovascular fitness and, crucially, floods your system with that BDNF Miracle-Gro. Now, to overcome that stubborn anabolic resistance in your muscles, clinical observation shows precision is key. You actually need to hit a threshold of about 25 to 40 grams of high-quality protein per meal. That's the sweet spot to maximally trigger muscle synthesis as you get older. And precision nutrition goes beyond just protein. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, are fantastic for calming neuroinflammation. Pair that with resistance training to drop stubborn visceral belly fat, and you're actively supporting much healthier bioavailable testosterone and vascular profiles. Also, do not underestimate emotional regulation. Employing a structured strategy like the RULR framework, where you recognize, understand, label, express, and regulate emotions, strengthens your brain's control over stress. This directly reduces your allostatic load, which is basically the physical wear and tear from chronic stress. Finally, you've got to protect your sleep. You need to fiercely guard that deep N3 slow-wave sleep to keep those metabolic street sweepers working. You do this through strict circadian alignment, prioritizing morning sunlight exposure, and strictly limiting your late-day caffeine.
Let's bring it all home with Section 5, Final Synthesis and Summary, focusing on systemic biological integration.
If there is one fundamental takeaway from all of this, it's systemic interconnectedness. Your brain absolutely does not age in a vacuum. Its longevity is deeply dependent on the shared networks of your muscles, your insulin sensitivity, and your inflammatory status. Preserving the mind means actively maintaining the whole machine. As the literature brilliantly summarizes here, cognitive aging is influenced by multiple interacting biological systems, which means that by proactively targeting your exercise, your nutrition, your sleep, and your cardiometabolic health, you are directly and actively preserving your functional capacity.
So we know for sure that cognitive aging is not a fixed destiny. It's a highly modifiable process. I'll leave you with this question. How will you adapt your daily, physical, nutritional, and metabolic habits today to actively engineer your own neurobiological resilience for tomorrow?